Some of the worst poker decisions come from concepts that sound smart. Two overcards, a key blocker, defending your blind. These phrases get tossed around at every table like they're automatic green lights. But used the wrong way, they don't save you money, they bleed it. I'm Terry Wood from PokerRailbird.com, and in this video, we're breaking down 3 of the most misused ideas in poker, overcards, and why they may not be the power play you think, blockers, and how they're often misunderstood, and defending the blinds, the myth of protecting what isn't even yours anymore. Let's dig in. First, let's take a look at overcards. You're holding the king of diamonds and the queen of hearts. Flop comes jack of spades, 5 of spades, 6 of diamonds. You have no pair, no straight draw, no flush draw, no blockers, no fold equity against decent players. So what are you actually hoping for? The probability of hitting a king or queen on the turn is about 13%, or roughly 6.8 to 1 odds. That means you'd need nearly 7 to 1 pot odds to justify a call. And you almost never get that. If you miss the turn, which you will 87% of the time, what's your plan for the river? You need the same 7 to 1 pot odds again just to keep going. Every tip you add at this point is just leaking value. Even if you hit a king or a queen, you're still behind hands like ace-king, ace-queen, not to mention the possibility of an opponent flopping a set. And let's not forget open-ended straight draws, like 7-8, 3-4, or even weird combos like 7-4, and if one of those hands is 2 spades, now they have the combo draw. You don't block any spades or straight draws. You don't control the board. And if an ace hits, the board pairs, or a third spade shows up, what's your next move? Overcards give the illusion of strength, but on a coordinated board, they're often a trap. And when your best case improvement still leaves you second best, that's not a hand worth chasing. So when players justify weak calls by saying, I had 2 overcards, what they're really doing is clinging to a fantasy, one that's mathematically unsound and strategically bankrupt. What's the plan? There isn't one. Unless you're prepared to bluff multiple streets, which rarely works at low and mid stakes, you're just lighting chips on fire. Overcards aren't a reason to continue. They're a reason to fold. But some players still convince themselves it's okay, because they blocked something. Let's talk about that. Let's clear the fog on one of the most misunderstood concepts in poker, blockers. Before we even get into examples, here's a bit of math to put it all in perspective. In a full ring, 9-handed game, there are 18 cards dealt pre-flop, 34.6% of the entire deck. With only 13 card ranks in the deck, this means multiple cards of each rank are likely in play every single hand. So if you're holding an ace, there's a 75% chance that someone else is also holding an ace, or any given card for that matter. If you're dealt 2 suited cards, there's about a 35% chance that another player is also holding 2 cards of that same suit. And whether or not their suited cards are of a higher rank than yours depends on the ranking you are holding. And roughly 50% of the time, you'll be dealt 2 cards with straight potential, just like your opponents. Add to that, about 75% of the time, the flop will deliver at least 1 possible straight draw. So what does this mean? It means that blockers are often more relevant for influencing the board texture, not for confidently ruling out what someone else might have. Let's take a closer look. Let's say you're holding the ace of spades and the king of diamonds in a 9-handed game. Now consider this. Scenario 1, you are the only player holding an ace. What's the probability that an ace appears on the flop? There are 50 unseen cards. 3 of those are remaining aces. So the probability that at least 1 ace hits the flop is 17.27%, or 4.79 to 1 odds. Scenario 2, you and 1 other player hold an ace. Now 2 of the 4 aces are accounted for. You have 1 and your opponent has 1, meaning only 2 aces remain in the deck of 50 unseen cards. Probability of at least 1 ace flopping in this case drops to 11.76%, or about 7.5 to 1 odds. This difference shows the true blocker effect. The cards in your hand make certain board outcomes less likely, not just what other players may be holding. So when you hold an ace, and your opponent also holds an ace, chances of another ace hitting the flop are reduced by over 5.5%, versus if you were the only player at the table with an ace. And this scales further. Holding the ace of spades and the king of spades, you now reduce the chance of flush flops in spades. Holding the queen of clubs and the jack of clubs, you reduce the odds of certain straight flops and club flush draws. But here's the catch, it influences the board texture. It doesn't mean no one has the flush, straight, or set, and it doesn't mean you can automatically bluff because of your blocker. Now let's talk about one of the most persistent and costly myths in poker. I had to defend my blind. No, you didn't. Here's the truth most players don't want to hear. Once you post a blind, that money is no longer yours. It belongs to the pot. You're not defending anything. You're chasing it by putting in more money, often with an inferior hand and always out of position. Let's say you're in the big blind with the jack of clubs and the four of diamonds. The button raises 3x and you say, well, I already had a blind in, might as well defend it. Translation: I'm going to call, meaning triple my investment, with a hand I'd never voluntarily play, just because I already put in some money. That's not strategy. That's sunk cost fallacy in action. Just because you already put chips in doesn't mean you should throw in more with a weak hand. Here's the typical justification, but I'm getting good pot odds. Let's break that down. Suppose blinds are $1, $2. You're in the big blind with $2 in and the button raises to $6. Everyone else folds and it's $4 to call into a pot of $9. That's 2.25 to 1 pot odds, not awful at first glance, but only if your hand can actually realize its equity. With Jack 4, it can't. Not in a real-world game. You're just burning money trying to win back what was never yours to begin with. Jack 4, suited or offsuit, has almost no playability, poor equity, and puts you out of position. So even if the math looks close, you're lighting money on fire. Defending the blinds also means you're playing the rest of the hand out of position. That's a huge disadvantage, one most players underestimate. Even playable hands like the king of spades and the jack of diamonds can become liabilities out of position against a competent opponent. And yet, people defend their blinds with Jack 3, Queen 7, 9 deuce, and worse. Let's be honest, most blind defenses are emotional, not logical. They sound like this: he's always stealing my blind. I can't let him push me around. I had a decent hand. But here's the kicker: folding is not weakness, it's discipline. The term defending the blind is a psychological trick. It suggests you're protecting something that's yours. But in poker, the moment you post your blind, it's not yours anymore. It's dead money, and now you have to earn it back like everyone else. If you wouldn't play a hand voluntarily from the cutoff, you probably shouldn't defend it from the big blind. We've covered 3 common concepts: over cards, blockers, and the blinds, and how they're often misunderstood, misused, or downright abused at the table. Over cards: just having 2 cards higher than the board doesn't make your hand playable, especially on wet flops. If you're holding a hand like king-queen offsuit on a board like the jack of spades, 5 of spades, and the 6 of diamonds, you're not ahead of much. You're likely drawing thin, and you need unrealistic pot odds to continue. Blockers: most players overrate the impact of blockers. Sure, holding the ace of spades eliminates the chance of someone making the nuts spade flush, but most real-world hands aren't the nuts. What blockers really do best is influence what hits the board, not necessarily what others hold. Blinds: once you post it, it's no longer yours. The idea of defending with trash hands like Jack 4 or Queen 7 is usually a costly mistake in the short term and always a mistake in the long term. If you want to strengthen your pre-flop decision-making, we've got more for you. Watch our full videos: Poker Flop Reading Strategy and How to Read the Turn and River. Links are in the description below. And check out the full article, Pre-Flop Strategy in Texas Hold'em, available now at pokerrailbird.com. If this helped shift your thinking, like the video, share, and subscribe to the channel. This is Terry Wood from pokerrailbird.com, and as always, good luck, and we'll see you at the tables.